On tonight's wrap, Cardiff win with a bonus point again, and we sort of discussed about the other teams not doing so well in Europe. Hello and welcome to another episode of the WRRAP podcast. It's me, Harley, as ever in the hot seat. I am joined by Hattie and Dan. How are we both doing?
Good evening.
Well, Dan's very chipper this evening.
It's
Glad,
Monday.
I'm glad. Those of you with the discerning eye on the YouTube will notice that Nick has gotten much younger and has changed his name to Zach. Welcome back, Zach. How are we doing?
I'm doing well, very well, Polly. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No worries. No worries. Right, so as Nick normally does the news desk, but he's gone off to on holiday to deal with Bennett with a Palmer-based trauma.
He
We're
should.
gonna
He should. Hang on a second. Nick should now be forever known as Judith Chalmers because that's how many holidays he has every year.
hey, it's the joys of being retired, and I
Oh,
cannot fault him.
tell me about it. Envy's a terrible colour on me.
So no change into a Connacht fan anytime soon then.
No, no.
As Nick normally does news desk, I don't really have anything put together. So Hattie, we're going to do some women's stuff, including a really something that was quite irritating during the commentary of the Dragons game.
Yeah. So I'll start off with the good news and then move on to my rant. Does that sound okay? Solid. So the good news slash little bit of drama, fun drama. So we know that Wales gals are in camp. Pretty standard. There's a big gap in the PWR season, so Ireland are in camp. Doesn't look like Scotland are, but England are, and Wales have announced that, well, we know that Wales are in camp. We've seen that they're in camp. We don't really know who's in camp because the WRU haven't announced it. But Bristol accidentally leaked their players who were in. So we've got Kira Bevan, JJB, Sav Picton Powell, which is very exciting. Rosie Cart, Maisie, Gwenny Hopkins, Jenny Hesketh, and Natalia John. We've also seen that Alicia Joyce Butchers and the baby, so all three Joyce Butchers are in camp. And then I think Georgia Evans, Al Cal, Grant Crabb, they all seem to be in camp as well. Oh, and Donna Rose. But we don't have the exact list yet. But from what we've seen from England and Ireland, they seem to be like 40 odd people in just like a wider training squad. And then we have my rant.
Yeah, do you want to tee us up on this, and then Hattie, what happened during the Dragons? I think was it after full time or was it during half time? I can't remember.
I think it was after the game, but it was like I thought that it was on another game. Am I wrong? Like they were doing a
Yeah, I think they were at Parker Scarlets doing the
yeah,
Dragons game, is my understanding.
yeah.
That's
Like it wasn't they weren't necessarily there. They were covering anyway.
It's the
They were
standard
on a
thing.
magical mystery tour. But Lynn Jones decided to comment and say that the Dragons were playing like women in their Challenge Cup defeat. Spoiler for later on. I have a lot of notes on this because I had to write down my rant because I've got very angry throughout the last like 24 hours or so since it's happened. Um, because 50% of social media and the conversations I've had with you guys has all been he's a dinosaur. Hopefully, like we don't have to hear from him again. The other half has been the most misogynistic commentary I have ever seen, like horrendous. For whatever reason, I decided to look on the Wales Online comments. Wished I hadn't. Feel like it set women back by about 60 years. Awful, awful, awful stuff being said. A lot of people saying like, "Oh, he was right. He shouldn't be criticised for what he said. Ha ha. I thought it was funny." And then just I won't get into the really horrible, horrible stuff. But in case you're wondering why it's offensive, if you need me to break it down, the thing is, he said it as playing like women, played like women. He said it as an insult. He means it was bad. Therefore, women are inherently inferior to men. That's what he means. The same when somebody says, you drove like a woman, you throw like a girl. It's all the same thing. And at the end of the day, it's also just bad analysis. Like, it's offensive and it's just lazy. He could have said the fact that there were SRC level players playing in the back line and that's why they weren't up to scratch. And it's because the squads aren't big enough. He didn't say that. Instead, he said played like girl, played like women. Just ridiculous. I have to be honest, I'm not completely shocked that a man involved in Welsh rugby, went on television and said it. I kind of wish that, like, Sioned had said something. He was pulled up on it. He apologised. I don't think it was a particularly sincere apology myself. I don't think he had time to reflect on what he said. Um, but yeah, I just think it's crap. And I hope I don't have to see him again. And if you think I don't get why people are getting upset, it's because you're not actually realizing what he said. He's just saying that women are inferior. That's what his statement means. And I'm kind of sick of looking at women get in the kitchen jokes being made. They're not funny.
If it's any saviour from us, it now means that Wyn Jones will never be on commentary or a panel ever again.
No.
Pretty comfortably.
Unless he ends up on GB News,
Does that really
which
count?
none of us will be watching. But you know, maybe that's one of my predictions already coming true for this year.
Yeah, I saw that maybe. I just thought it was typically against like rugby values. Like one of the main thing I think about, and everyone will probably agree with this with rugby, is has always been coined as being something for everyone. Everyone, all walks of life, all shapes and sizes, all sexes, everyone. That's what one of the main pillars of our values, I would say, in the game is. And he made a anti-rugby value statement, didn't he, straight off the bat there and then. So, which was disappointing to see. Especially as the father of a daughter. You'd like to think that my daughter stands as good a chance in society as anybody else. And maybe people like Lynn are holding that hope back a little bit. So yeah, like Zach said, sorry, Hattie, to just cut in. Like Zach said, maybe it's the last time we see Mr. Jones on telly.
And I think as well, like, it's like bringing up your daughter, just to piggyback on that. I know when I was a kid, like, one of the things that you see a lot is that as soon as girls hit puberty, they stop playing sport. So there's this huge push to have girls stay in sport past like 12, 13 years old. I know from when I was a kid, I would watch things and it would be like, oh, he throws like a girl, or, just random things about men being better in sport. So why would girls bother? Because you're never going to be as good. And when you have somebody on TV as a commentator saying, play like a bunch of women or whatever, you're enforcing that stereotype. And it's things like that where it's casual misogyny is almost worse than any, like, the bigger stuff, because it's so accepted in society and it's so accepted in the media that it gets in your brain and it becomes factual because it's said so casually. So actually, I think what he said is perhaps worse than like slurs or anything else, because it's so casual and it's said and people just like ignore it. But that's going to, if there was like 8, 9, 10-year-old girls watching that, which there probably were, a parent's going to have a conversation, hopefully, and go, oh, no, 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 ignore it. Like, it's just shit. Just shit.
Have S4C or the BBC said anything?
Um, so I
Not
know
to my knowledge.
that the BBC are doing an article because they asked me for a comment, but I don't think S4C have said anything.
What are they doing an article on? Do you know? Is
Uh,
it like do a radio bit or?
it's like a written article. It should be out in the next few days, I think.
Oh, okay, be interesting. Yeah.
But I think, like, as I said, I'm not surprised that somebody within Welsh rugby went on telly and said that, because it's the culture within it. Like, we keep seeing different forms of misogyny come out. We keep seeing different forms of homophobia and racism, etc. And Dan's saying rugby's for everyone. Well, the WRU keep showing us time and time again that they don't think it is. And the people involved, and if somebody's brazen enough to say it on telly, what are they saying behind the scenes?
Good point, well made.
And one point that I feel like no one really stands on is how utterly shit a comparison is anyway, because at this point, I think the Dragons would love it if they were as good as the women.
Can you imagine if the Dragons were as good as Gwalia?
Oh, steady on now. We can't we can't get our hopes up too much, can we now?
Can you imagine if the Dragons had Gwalia's goal line D? Dan would be
If
one
all the
happy
Welsh
man.
sides had all the Welsh sides had that, that would be brilliant.
Can you imagine, like, it's just ridiculous for me to be like, oh yeah, they're bad, and you've got like the Welsh team has got, and I know our results don't, aren't really showing this, but like the talent in the women's side, and just like how big and bolshy some of them are, like Maisie Davis, Alex Callender, Bridie King, Courtney Key, Kira Bevan. Can you imagine saying that to any of them?
No, it's I don't want to go off piste a little bit, but do you know if Evie Hill's made the national squad?
It hasn't been announced, and I'll get into it later, but by God, she's good.
Well, she is, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's only
She was in under 18s last year.
so she's 19, 20, yeah. I know Evie's dad, pretty well nice guy, Ryan. Proper
Yeah, did you see his
Valley
tweet?
Salt the Earth Valley family. Probably, yeah. Was he put out?
So it was. I'll get into it later, but her and Isla played for Gwalia together for the first time,
Okay.
and he put up like photos of them when they were little.
Yeah, playing for the
Yeah,
mini newts and then all the way
and
through.
then playing under 18s for Wales, and then playing for Gwalia. It was very
Yeah,
cute.
great. Yeah, it's good. It's great. It's great.
Yeah,
And that shows, maybe that shows a pathway that is starting to work.
yeah.
So yeah, sorry, yeah, not to take your thunder on that. So Harley, did you want me to segue in now to what, the Italian job or the non-Italian job, if you like?
I was going to spare you a little bit and I think we'll round up the women's section for Celtic
Yeah, go
challenge
on then.
action.
Oh right,
It's nice how we actually put it into
we're
the front. So
we're
I mean,
doing things
starting off,
back to front this week.
He's
I'm
gone
putting the
rogue.
women
He's
first.
gone rogue.
Yeah, just because.
Nick's not here and it's gone to shit.
Yes, Nick's gone here now. Harley's reading chaos down. So,
It's the level of
so
woke
first game up
takeover.
was yeah. So I mean, the first game I watched, Squalia beating Glasgow Warriors again. That which was absolutely fantastic, and it's nice to see how much Glasgow improved. But do you want to just give a sort of overall?
Yes, I have to be honest. I have just realised I forgot to write down what the scores are because I'm very professional.
So
So
Gwalia's
if you give me two
131-19.
seconds, thank you very much. Oh, I've got it up. Hang on, I've got it up on my screen. It just wasn't in my notes. I do apologise for the people at home. I promise, I'm more professional than I think. I'm not. I'm really unprofessional. Anyway, 31-19 against a much improved Glasgow, actually. Glasgow have been pretty bad the last couple of years, but they have really, really improved this year. They've got a lot of squad kind of cohesion, a lot of balance. It was a really, really good contest. The backs for Gwalia Lightning they've always been a very, very forward heavy team. But you've had like Courtney Greenaway, who she came through an open trial last year, and within like 12 months, less than 12 months, she was playing for GB7s. So that's mental. And that was somebody who just got missed out of a pathway somewhere and got picked up. So she was incredible. Nikita Prothero, who she was a flanker for England under 20s, has moved to like 15/wing. She's playing up at Sale Sharks. She got her first start. She is such a lethal defender on the wing, and I think it's something that Wales has really, really been missing, and Gwalia's really been missing, is having a really, really lethal tackler in the backs. So that's been really, really awesome to see. Evie Hill, as I said, she was in my notes. She had an absolutely sensational game. I think this was a game where she really kind of came of age. You see a lot of Maisie Davis kind of taking the props, shall we say, in that front row, and it is hard to kind of outshine Maisie, but Evie had an incredible game. Isla McMullen came in off the bench, who's a former under 18s captain. Came on in the centres. As soon as she came on, she was just absolutely taking people out. Her tackling is incredible. Her hands are incredible. Just her IQ is off the charts. So it's really, really good to see. They're both super, super young, as we mentioned earlier. They played together. They're playing under 18s last summer, so they're like 18, 19, something like that. So super, super young still. So it is really good to see Isla get her first senior start, her first
They've
senior
been
game.
playing. They've been playing as a partnership all the way through like minis and juniors. Then, or-
Well, they've been playing in the same team. Evie is a prop. Um, so, I mean, that's a duo. Prop and centre.
but also, can we just say the real highlight of the Gala game? The return of scones.
Yeah. So we had Jenny Scones came back after her leg injury last year. That's pretty lethal. And the return of Keris Hale Cummings, who she retired completely, went off, had a baby 6 months ago. And she was working as a coach in PDC East and also for Dragons girls under 18s, I believe. And she was just like, "Do you know what? I'm going to come back. I'm going to play a bit of rugby." And so she came on, played like the last 10 minutes of the game. Like she'd never been away. She was great. And also Molly Anderson Thomas taking names, absolutely taking names in the centre. She was destroying people. It was crazy. Moving on to Brithon, it was a very, very tight loss, which I think last week my prediction was that it was going to be an absolute blowout in favour of the Clovers. So I'm very happily sort of challenged by that. It was a 3-point loss, 12-15 at Cap. Um, Brithon, I know it's a loss, right? However, I'm actually way more positive about that game than I was some of the wins that Brithon had last year. There weren't very many, but much more positive about that. I think Brithon has really, really struggled for an identity. First year, it was, we had this incredible back row. We had Shonard, we had Alcal. We lost them going into our second season. And it was like, oh, we've got these incredible backs tries, but we can't do anything else. We can't defend. Goal kicking maybe a bit of a problem. Our forwards are not good, but at least we've got these really fancy floaty tries, which very much in like the Scarlets mould, kind of, how the Scarlets want to play was very much how Bristol were playing, but they couldn't really do anything with it. The last two games they weren't even doing that, and it was quite frustrating. Whereas I felt that this game felt like Brithon had an identity, and a lot of that identity was kind of based around Gwen Crabb, who came back from injury. She, like, first, I believe, like 10, 15 minutes, we went down. Clover scored 2 tries, and it was like, oh, where do we go from here? Usually, Brithon would have put their head down and they wouldn't have, it would have just been a blowout. Between Gwen Crabb and I have to say that Stella Oren, who's a very, very young prop, not super experienced, she was playing for Cardiff Met, I believe. Now she's at Brithon. Between her and Gwen, the two of them together really, really lifted the squad. There's still a lot of immaturity, especially in the backs, especially kind of in the back row as well. You could kind of see like our defense wasn't super organized. The scrum, we were either dominant or we were conceding penalties. But as soon as we can kind of like string stuff together, it was really, really good. So what I really, really want to see is Brithon build on what they did at the weekend, and build that identity and realise that there is hope. Gwen came off, I think around like 60, 70 minutes, something like that, replaced by Robin Davis, who was great. But it's very difficult to replace a like 40 cap international with like a 19-year-old in her first season of senior rugby. So we did kind of miss that. And I think if Gwen had been at full strength and able to play that full game, I think the scoreline might have been a bit different just because we missed that leadership. But Fionn Lewis was great. Courtney Keat came in and was a huge, great addition. Lisa Neumann as well on the wing. But yeah, hopefully we can build around the big GC.
Excellent. Any games next weekend? Or this coming weekend?
Yes, there is. It is. Let me not get this wrong. Gwalior versus Edinburgh, which will be at home, and it should be at Ostrov Monarch at 1 p.m. on Saturday. And then on Sunday at 12, Brython are away to Wolfhounds. They should be on BBC iPlayer. The details will be released later this week. If they're not on BBC iPlayer and they're in fact on YouTube, then we will put up the link where it is. And usually BBC iPlayer is very confusing because you can't find the link until it like the actual program goes live. But they usually start about like 5 to 7 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah, it is one that catches me out every single time.
Yeah, and then you're looking and you're like, why can I not find this one? It starts in 2 minutes, and then you remember it's the YouTube one.
So I think that's a nice comprehensive thing, the women's game. So if you've been enjoying what you've heard so far, please like, share the podcast. Leave us some nice, wonderful comments on YouTube. Check out the feeder pods, such as Zach's Ospreys Eyrie, which is not to be confused with the other 27 Ospreys podcasts out there.
Some of them haven't uploaded in a while, though, so I think Zach's the only one standing at the minute.
Can't change class.
That's permanent, they say. Anyway, so we'll move on to the less interesting men's game. So, we're in
So woke.
what was formerly European action now. So we're going to kick off chronologically, which was me. So I'm going to start off with the happiness before it all goes downhill. Cardiff beat Racing 92, pretty regulation victory. There was at no point where I was worried at all of us repeating all the same mistakes over Christmas. Yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Cardiff taking points and actually kicking smart. That we sort of decided we weren't going to win the aerial battle, so we just kicked long, including one of the greatest 50-22s done by the beautiful, beautiful man that is Rhys Barrett. As he kicked 50-22 as a fly hack, pretty much, which is just excellent. So then Jacob Beaton thought, well, hang on, a back should probably do one of these as well. Yeah, pretty good game. Ben Thomas showing again that he can actually carry the ball despite everyone wanting to ignore their eyes. He had another very classy game, sort of running the show from 12. It was good to see Tom Bowen and Ewan Stevens back. I was initially a bit worried having both our two smallest wingers on the wings, but what they lacked in the aerial game, I think they made their speed and pace excellent. Tom Bowen's like absolute flying thing where he does a handstand on the ball to score.
He had a lovely try.
It was just wonderful. Rory Thornton continuing to surprise people by being quietly excellent over the last few weeks. Sounds good. We even scored off a tap penalty, which is something that we've been struggling to do for the last few weeks. So it just shows once again the festive derbies are weird anomalies, and it's usually the exact opposite of what's happening in the rest of your season. Got anything else to add on that? Unless someone wants to dive in.
I really like the Tom Bowen try. Sorry, that's what made it. It was lovely. To be fair to him, it was a good try.
Callum Sheedy and Callum Sheedy things, and Tom Bowen being very quick. It's so aesthetically pleasing. Just
Sheedy was missing all that time. He was randomly kicking, and Mason Grady getting nowhere near.
Why was Bowen dropped to the rags a week before then?
From what it sounds like, there was a bit of a knock. He'd taken a knock and come down. But I think the biggest part of it, I think Cornel Van Zyl was so worried after the Ulster game with him messing up an high ball. He thought, I'm going to stick our two biggest wingers in Mason Grady and Josh Adams. And it didn't really work. As I said here, they sort of put less emphasis on kicking to compete and went a bit longer. Or we're more focused on getting on the tackle in the first phase, using a bit more speed. At least that's how I'm interpreting it. I mean, we discussed it on Central. We think we got the selection. You got the selection wrong there by going too far on height, and you lost a little bit of the magic and the pace.
Yeah,
I
'cause I
know, I
think
know. Grady and Adams aren't exactly slow.
no, but
Yeah,
Bowen's
he's
just
but
like
but he,
Bowen's
another
just
level
so
of speed.
quick.
yeah, I'd be playing him every week now. He's got that X factor, that something he's a point of difference. Um, and he's a threat. It's interesting you mentioned the struggles he had under the high ball. I wonder where the teams target, the Welsh smaller players, as in we saw Blair Murray targeted during the autumn internationals. More specifically, there's obviously a skills gap there that needs
Mm.
to be met fairly quickly in order to progress their development, because whether they like it or not, they're going to get kicked on.
Yeah, and I don't think it's like oh, you're small, so therefore you'll never be able to catch high ball. It's just something you might have to work a little bit harder at.
Hmm.
Lee Halfpenny, not a big man.
Well, no, and the
Um,
two, and Ches and Colby's good under the high ball. There's
yeah,
plenty of people that are not as, a little bit vertically challenged that are particularly good under the high ball. And I just think that but it's clear there's a skills gap there at the moment.
mm.
There just needs coaching. But on the whole, I thought that it was the one thing I got to mention about Racing. I don't know whether anyone else has seen this, but there was one Twitter account on Racing that went from a Racing fan, French guy, that went
He went.
absolutely nuclear, absolutely nuclear. And
I think I've seen more head loss on Twitter this week than in any other week of my life, and it was
oh,
brilliant.
it was so funny. So I'd recommend for people that haven't seen it, go and search out the.
I'm pretty sure it's up on Rugby Struggles, so
It is on Rugby
There you
Struggles.
go.
go have a
Ru-
look at that because it is just the most. It is literally the worst loser I think I've ever seen. Blaming the ref, and there was somehow cheating. I don't. He wasn't very specific on what card for actually doing wrong.
Oh,
The
and
swearing was
the
very
language.
creative as well.
Yeah, but it
I,
wasn't
I
just.
did appreciate, as a connoisseur of a good profanity, I did appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
the Tom
but
Bone
every
thing,
every profanity was in capital letters as well, which was even more
Oh yeah,
amusing.
it wasn't just like his tweets, and I'm assuming it's a man putting out there, assuming it's a bloke. Uh, it's not just that, like the tweets were full of profanity and like they were really vile and vicious. It was just like the punctuation and the overall like appearance of them. Like if he could have bolded it, he would have. It
Oh,
would have been
10,
in italics. It would have, I'm surprised, and there was no emojis, which was what really got me.
10 out of 10 for effort.
I would like to mention he's renamed his account to Rugby Truth, which is even brilliant, adding on to the head loss.
He cried into his cock
has
of
he
hand,
posted
didn't he,
anything else? Because
on
I've
Saturday
just got.
night.
They're not on X anymore. I just imagine that it was like an account that was made like 10 minutes after full time.
Mm.
Done in.
Yeah, I think that's Cardiff games done and dusted. I've got a little. I've talked about Tom Bone and the high ball, whereas I think actually he's got a reasonable vertical jump, but if other
I,
teams are timing it really well, then you
yeah,
do
and
get
I don't think it's going to be a
it.
problem long term. My observation is that clearly
It work.
yeah, and clearly teams look at these people, players, and think, right, he's 5'7" or whatever it is. He is 5'8", 5'9". We'll kick the ball to him and stick a Mason Grady type player against him and see how he gets on. So it's just there to be practiced. That's all. Everyone would. It'd be the obvious thing to do, wouldn't it? Kick the ball to him, see how he gets on. So let's let's watch this space.
You're gonna get a
So
DM
Danny,
telling you that he's actually like 5'11". And we're
He
gonna
might
know
well
it's a
be a.
lie.
no one will ever say that. If anything, they're going to be spanking you for putting the extra inch on.
Well, he might be
Uh,
5'11" with his long studs on. I don't know. Top player though.
Anyway, that's enough of the antics out in the capital. So we're gonna go to our first of two trips out into Italy now. Dan, you had last dish word there. See, Hattie ruined my segue. First words on this. So Dragons went to Treviso, and Cambridge is not a lot really. Do you want to go over the game with us, Dan?
No, really. What do you want?
There.
What do you want to know? No, I'm actually for the uneducated, the Dragons lost 74-21. and they were well beaten, 11 tries to three. The one thing that I wasn't expecting the Dragons to go and win on the weekend. I thought that, as Jamie on the Dragons Lair calls it, Tia Tia's Tombola was coming out, and it did. And I was expecting that, so I wasn't predicting them to go and win. And I thought a bonus point away. If they'd have lost 74-28 and they'd have managed to pick up that fourth try, I'd have said, you know what, it's not too bad, because that extra point would have made a difference in the race for qualification, but they didn't. So that was the big letdown for me. And a couple of stats which will paint the picture of the game for you is that Benetton's top carriers, 5 out of their 6 top carriers were backs. Adogwu, 18 carries. 18 carries from outside centre. Louis Liner on the wing, 16 carries. Fekatoa, 15 carries. These are some serious stats for outside backs in terms of their carry numbers. And then on the reverse side of that, if we just look at defence, tackles missed. Sorry boys, but Di Richards 8, Hugh Anderson 6, Ewan Rosser 5, Joe Westwood 3. Pictures. Well, I haven't even shown you a picture, but those words speak 1,000 pictures. Then, if you like to put it the other way around, that's the tail of the tape. For me, I thought actually the Dragons did okay up front. A lot of the forwards fronted up in terms of carry, and Levi Douglas went around whacking people as he normally does. I really like Levi. He's probably a bit better off the bench at the moment, but I like the way he goes about his business. His line speed was good. So I thought they did okay there. Their line-out stats were terrible. I think they won 38 or 40% of line-outs. But so that 3 was
out of 8.
3 out of 8.
Which, including possibly the most confusing, obvious mistiming I think ever.
Yeah,
It was the
exactly.
first
So
one. I think their first one where he managed to throw it and in between the gap in Levi Douglas's arms.
yeah, and for me that just goes to show that they were missing a line-out. The line-out caller, Ben Carter, I'm assuming normally runs the line-out, or someone like a Seb Davis, and they missed him or either of those massively. So that's my tale of tape. But then when it was the back line really for me then that where we really suffered. I thought the scrum, like I said, the scrum was okay, and the boys put themselves about a little bit up front, but the back line really, really suffered. And those missed tackle stats for the Dragons and the Benetton stats really paint that picture. Now, I say took to X, I didn't take to X or Twitter as you like much afterwards, but I basically, sort of retweeted the Scrum 5 stuff and said, look, I think it was, wasn't the Dragons going back, to where they were, pre, Connaught or wherever it was. I just think it was a sign of the personnel that we had on the field at the time. If you take Fekitoa and a Dogwu, an All Black, an Italian international, in the centre combination for Benetton, we had young Joe Westwood and Di Richards, who, in my eyes, at the moment, in terms of being would be a centre partnership in the SRC. That's the level that they probably at there. Now, Joe's a big lad. He's still learning his trade, and I got no doubt he's got a very high ceiling. But for the two of them to play together in there, I thought they struggled defensively from an organisational perspective. You'd look to split the centres from any sort of midfield ruck with them calling numbers in defence. The fold wasn't good enough. They weren't calling the right numbers around. They didn't dictate the line speed. Normally, you'd have your line speed dictated to by one of the centres, and especially if you've got a winger at halves, maybe then full back taking the last man, depending on what sort of system you're playing. But I thought everyone could probably see that the line speed was much poorer compared to recent weeks, and I think that's a personnel thing. If you throw Inisi in there and an Iron Owen in there, that doesn't happen. And this is not, and I'm not slating any of the boys here because they went out there and they had a good go. And as a matter of fact, I thought Di Richards against the Scarlets was outstanding. But to me, it clearly shows that he's a winger at pro level. I'd play him on the wing because the decision making isn't quite there yet. He may get there, but I don't think it's quite there yet in terms of specifically in terms of his defence. Yeah, and we just got found out behind. You know, you and Ross is probably having nightmares over Ratave running down that 5 metre channel and bouncing him around like a tennis ball in a hallway. Um, you know, our attack struggled without an Iron Owen in there as well. I think very much the Dragons are settling on a bit like Cardiff, having a first and second 5'8" in there, if you like, rather than having, you know, a traditional 10-12 combination. You know, ball playing 12 like an Iron can be. So I just genuinely think that I'm quite philosophical about it actually, that yeah, they've gone out. There's no excuses. The boys took a hammer in. You know, 70 points is a right old stuffing. But it is a sign that the depth in the squad isn't where it should be. You know, and I made this point. Did I make it in the group or maybe on Twitter again that if Paella comes back and he's fit, our best three centres are an Iron Owen, Paella, and Anisi. You know, therefore, for example, Joe and Di Richards don't make the squad. They would go back to get game time at Newport. Whereas I don't think you'd release an Iron Owen, Paella, or Anisi back to the SRC. They're above that level now. They're not going there. Whereas the others would go back there. So that was sort of my point on it being largely an SRC team or backline, if you like, especially in the midfield. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just shows, I suppose, that as a matter of fact, I think it's a perfect example of where we are in Wales at the moment. In that the pathways clearly struggled. You know, the Dragons haven't got another 10. When was the last time the Dragons produced a fly half? You're probably looking at someone like Jason Tovey. And Jason Tovey started his career at fullback. You know, so they had to go and convert Richard, sorry, I'm on about Richard, thinking about Richard Powell. They had to go and convert Jason Tovey to fly half. So it's been a while really since the pathway has produced properly, especially in the back line. It's exposed our depth, I would say. No doubt about it, and maybe also has exposed the SRC as maybe not being that vehicle that it should be for development. Not yet, anyway. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not slagging it off. I'm just saying that's the state of play at the moment. So yeah, on the whole, it was a steep learning curve for the boys. On the plus side, they've all had brilliant experience playing against top quality opposition. I know someone was saying that, you know, I've seen stuff going on. They're eighth in the table, Benetton and the URC. You know, yeah, they are. I get that, but well, they got £11 million budget. You know, all black inside centre Italian internationals littered throughout the team. It's effectively Italy light, isn't it? When they take the field, they were pretty fully loaded. Clearly want to make a push at this European Cup. So yeah, Jordan Morris. You know, we had four SRC slash Academy boys coming off the bench. In the likes of Jordan Morris, who come on had a go. I thought he was better again at scrum time rather than his first outing for the Dragons. So there's some silver lining in it, but ultimately very much second on the day in all areas. And yeah, I'd expect something different next week against Newcastle. I don't know what you guys thought.
The main thing I would say is there was an interception at like 63, 65 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
And it happens, and you can literally see the Dragons' backline just like stop. And they sort of like almost all turn to the ref, expecting for the whistle to be blown. And I think they then realise, oh shit, it's no, like we need to go. And they do, but they all just look gassed. And I think it just kind of showed up that a lot of them just weren't quite ready for that level, and they weren't playing at URC European level. Like I
Yeah,
said, I think that was just
I'd
the
agree with that.
perfect example of it. In my like, if you had to picture like a minute, that would be the bit I'd show. And it's not. I think it's like you see whenever you have players playing at a level that they're not quite ready for, is that they're not that then they're turning their backs on what's happening. They're not going to the whistle because they're knackered. They just don't have like the mental fitness or the actual physical fitness to deal with it.
Yeah, and
Also,
and it's an interesting thing about like the development side of it because when we signed Harry Bedell, for example, and you see his performances for Wales where he's effectively old school number 7, make loads of tackles. And I was like, oh, I wonder whether he'd be as effective at senior rugby. But clearly the pathway that he's been in has served him okay because, he made 20 odd tackles against England, 20s last season, made 25 tackles on the weekend. He's able to, he's starting to bridge that gap. But, you look at the bench, we had Jack Lloyd coming off the bench, regular in the SRC, Morgan Lloyd, regular in the SRC, Barney Langton-Cryer, regular in the SRC, Jordan Morris, regular in the SRC. Four out of the 8 on the bench were, and I got no doubt we'll be playing SRC next weekend as well, most likely. So, yeah, real good experience for them though. They now know what's required to be at this level. So I got much more of a philosophical approach to it than, it was shit, throw the baby out with the bathwater, sack all the coaches, sack all the players, close the Dragons down. That's not the case. Unfortunately, it was a team that probably wasn't capable of coming away with a bonus point. So, yeah, unfortunately, we come unstuck. But I'd expect probably nine changes again for Newcastle, and we go again.
Dragons aren't the first team to have gone out to Benetton with a very new back line and get absolutely shellacked because Cardiff did it a couple of seasons ago. I think Rainbow Cup, either the Rainbow Cup or it was the Rainbow Cup when Benetton won. Streets on there to get the Rainbow Cup. And I think we put out I think we basically did a back line of a very young Ben Thomas and Mason Grady and Ellis Bevan. We're all now much better players for it. But I think we lost 69-14.
And I hope that it's not coming across as me being critical. I'm not really. I'm just and I hope people don't think that I'm just slating the players saying that they're SRC level. That's also not the case. I think, for example, Joe Westwood's 6'2", 6'3", 100 kilos. That boy's got a future in front of him in the pro game. Just needs coaching and developing. There's no doubt about it. We all saw what he could do away at the Ospreys last season. He scored a hat-trick down to the Ospreys or something stupid like that last season or the season before. He's got the ability to do it. Di Richards' finish last week against the Scarlets. These players have got it in them. Hugh Anderson, for example. How good was Hugh Anderson when he had the ball in his hands? Unfortunately, when he hasn't got the ball in his hands, he's much less effective. His last line D was poor. So it's just a development thing. So I'm really not being critical, overly critical of everybody, of anybody in particular. I just think that it just shows where we are at the moment. Interesting little point of topic, or little point of discussion rather, is that I think the Dragons are much better when Tinas plays with an Iron Owen. And Iron Owen very much plays as that ball playing 12. Scarlets play much better when they got Costello and Hawkins and the Hawkins ball playing 12. Cardiff play with the ball playing 12, right? So you very much into that realm of like sort of first and second 5'8", a Dan Carter, Luke McAllister sort of combination. And I wonder whether that's where the game's going a little bit because people want to play up the back a little bit more. Have this a fluid attacking structure rather than having a Jamie Roberts battering ram type player in at 12. And so then for someone like Joe Westwood, as an example, big guy, obviously the physicality and the physical side of the game will be his bread and butter. But then they have to be either adapt the attacking game around that, or bring his skill level up, his ball playing skill level up to that sort of level as well. So I wonder whether in Wales, whether we're starting to drift towards that sort of first and second 5'8" combination at sort of 10-12 rather than the old school, 10 slash 10 or 12 slash battering ram in there. I don't know what you think about that.
Things this start. So it's one of the things I talk about a lot when we talk about Wales and how Ben Thomas is incredibly effective at Cardiff, not necessarily at the Wales level. Having that back row at 12 really helps when you've got an undersized pack and aren't pulling the weight carrying. The skills you utilise elsewhere. And I think do need that, but having the beer shows that if you've got someone else doing all the actual thinky game management stuff, you just let him come into line through the passes and just do
Mm.
the fancy Welsh fly half of them. Sort of despite that, whereas if Brother actually had really good game. And to this level, it's fine. You can get away with it. The size difference between packs isn't as bad. I know you do get occasions like this New Year's Day, but you still need that bit of power to come from somewhere. So it's either got to come from your pack, or you've got to have that 13 who's a proper physical strike runner. And I think like with Schmidt, he added that physicality. I think it's one of those things. It's great and it's really good having that dual play. I mean, I quite like back Jockey's first instance of that coach where they used Jared Evans and Gareth Hanscom in that way. So yeah, just second playmaker coming out in the next 15. The Ospreys do that as well quite successfully with definitely want to have extra
Yeah, it is interesting. I suppose that the ideal would be in having someone in there that's multi-threat and able to do both of those things. And we haven't seen enough of him yet at the Dragons, but I wonder whether Paella could push in one and maybe do both of those things. Traditionally the South Sea Islanders are good ball handlers and very dexterous and so on and so forth. And I'd actually quite like to see a 12-13 combination of Paella and Inisi. I think that's a very dangerous centre combination. So, but then what do you do with an Iron Owen? But then that's the beauty of being able to rotate if you can keep everyone fit. But yeah, I digress. My apologies.
All I'm hearing there is you want the Dragons to copy Cardiff even further by getting your own Halaholo Lilo combination.
Oh, come on now. It'll be a step up on that, and you know it.
There is no step up from Razor Ray Lilo. You'll be fine. Anyway, so that's the games from the East talking about. So we're going to now switch over to the Champions Cup. Sorry, Hattie, you've got to talk about it. Let's rip the band-aid off. I'll lead off. So obviously, Scarlett Scott. Well, it's a very weird game actually because
Yeah,
I
you
feel like
can't.
the scoreline doesn't reflect the game.
I keep going back and forth on this game, right? Where watching it, I wanted to like starting first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. And then we went for posts. I was like, why have we done that? Because they have conceded penalty after penalty after penalty in their own 22, and their line out is bad. Why have we not just tried to maul it again? Because they'd surely get a yellow. Instead, we went for posts. I was like, weird choice, but okay. The following like 15, 20 minutes made me want to curl into a ball and die. Um, it was like some of the worst rugby I've ever seen us play, and we're shit this year. So that really says something. Um, Joe Hawkins had, I said it last week where he seems to just not improve game on game at 10 because he's not 10, but he in particular just didn't have a good game. Every pass that he made just didn't go to hand. I think Hugh put together a compilation of every touch of the ball that Joe Hawkins had, and it was on his like third or fourth pass that it finally went like that somebody actually caught the ball that he threw. And it was because I think it was Eddie James actually jumped to catch it because it was so high above his head. And then the following three passes didn't go to hand either. It was not his night. It was not a good game for him. The first like 30, 35 minutes for the Scarlets, it felt like we were playing a game plan that just didn't make any sense. It didn't suit what our players. It didn't suit playing against Poe. Like it was just a bad. It was just bad. And like at one point there was like five players in a ruck where there were no Poe. There was no Poe involvement at all. Archie started getting booed for his box kicks, although to be honest, his box kicks weren't that bad. They were actually contestable. Um, but there was something like a switch went off in Archie as soon as he got booed, and he was like, "I'm not doing this anymore." And he really took charge of the game. Am I put my hand up?
Yeah. You
Oh,
switched the emojis on, remember?
oh yeah, I did. Very sorry. I don't know how to turn this off now. There we go. I talk with my hands, it's a problem. Um, it's just yeah, he had this switch and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to play my game now." And we had that lovely Archie try, Archie the Falcon, according to Sauce Plants. Had lovely try, was not a training paddock move at all. That was completely and utterly off the cuff. You could tell there was a forward kicking. There was the worst kick I've ever seen in my life, but at least it went forwards. And then Arch went and scored. Um, it was a good, it was a good try. And from there, it built up. And then we moved into the second half, and it was like, oh my God, we might bring this back. And then we had a really weird, like, load of changes, and like the substitutions didn't make a lot of sense, and who was coming on and who was being replaced, and the time that it was, and the point where our momentum dipped lined up with the time that Nichols came on. It was just really frustrating. We had like a good middle 40-ish, and everything else was really bad. And then after the game, Dwayne Peel came out and just said the same old crap. And it was like, you're just saying the same thing that you say after every loss we've had. And it almost like you're watching, you're like, you're the one hampering the game because you're the one making these substitutions and the substitutions are hampering the game. Your game plan clearly isn't working because as soon as the players start ignoring it, it starts working. So, like, what is going on? And it isn't just him. Like, it's the whole coaching team. It's the fact that our signings have been not good this year, apart from Anderson. But then we found out that he's got a massive Achilles heel, which is his restarts, which is now being kind of what's it targeted. I'm just a bit. I'm just confused and annoyed, and I'm hoping something happens.
Yeah, I was wanted to ask. I mean, first of all, me and Hugh were talking about this game, and I suggested that maybe Henry Thomas should bring some of his experience from out in France and lead a full-on player of ops. Seriousness.
What,
How
what
untenable
do
is
people think
Peel's
that's going to
position here?
achieve?
Because, oh, is that Ben?
Well, we've discussed in our sort of sort of off-air group that Peel, is cause for Peel to go. First of all, what to achieve? Who are you going to replace him with? Who's going to want the job? At what point do you start? How much say has he had on the signings, based on the monetary factor involved? And at what point are the players also responsible for the execution of the game plan?
I think for me, he's so out of his depth. He'd never been a head coach before at this level. I think, to be honest, looking back at last season, got quite lucky in that things clicked. We're playing a lot off instinct. Um, Sam Costello playing off instinct and it working. We don't have players with that. We had Archie come out. He had a great game. He was our player of the game, really. For me, it isn't just him, it's the coaching staff and whatever game plan they're putting together, which I have to be completely honest, I don't fully understand what our game plan doesn't seem to work with the players that we've got, and I also don't seem to fully understand what it is. Um, you know,
But I suppose what I'm getting at is what's the difference between this year's game plan and last year's game plan, whereby last year's game plan you finished eighth, seventh, eighth in the league and qualified for the Champions Cup.
I feel like last year we had some bigger ball carriers. We had, when Costello was not injured, he played incredibly well. And then we had Lloyd come in and kind of fill in as well. it's not the same player, but it was serviceable, and it worked. There's something's got to change. We can't stay as we are. Um, and it's just frustrating. But I think it's just like last year he just got a bit lucky, I think, and this year it's all kind of falling apart. Um, it's just really frustrating as a fan because it's like we're just going from loss to loss to loss. But the good news is, like, watching the players, you can be like, oh, well, they're not complete dog shit. Like, they are actually good players. Like, you can see, that they've got brains, that they're working, and they've got like fitness and everything else. But it's just
Because
nothing's working.
just to give you an example of what I'm on about you, because I think he's being a little bit harshly done by. So when you played the Dragons at home this time last year, so January 2025, your starting 15 was Hepburn, Van der Merwe, Thomas, all still at the club. Craig and Lousy, gone. Douglas, Plumtree, McLeod, at the club. Davis, Costello, Williams, Roberts, me, Rogers, Murray, all still at the club. So whilst you've lost Lousy and
We haven't
Craig,
lost
not
Lousy.
Lousy, sorry, you lost Fafita,
Mm.
who came off the bench in that game, but you brought in Anderson, whose carrying is very, very good.
Very good, yeah.
And you've lost Craig, but you brought Ball in. So whilst
Yeah.
maybe not quite the same, for me, they have to shoulder some of that blame themselves. If what they would get the same group of players, what they were given and what they fed last year worked, and they bought into, why can't they do it this year?
The difference is one year they actually had a 10, which seemed to help because there was a big coincidence of Costello getting fit and Scarlett's going on a big run. I know that it's happened all 3 years, but and in fairness, like we were having these discussions before both you two joined the pod last season and the season before, where it looked like they don't go through a pre-season.
Yeah.
It seems to take them the first block of games to get up to speed, and you'd think they'd have learned from that. I'll be honest, there's something me and Hugh have been discussing since Bill came in. That squad is desperate, considering that they keep signing young and inexperienced tens. It's really lacking a sort of Stephen Myler or a Reece Priestland, some old head who
As
can encourage
guidance.
decisions. Because Peel, yes, he was a good attack coach at Ulster, although admittedly he never really did anything with him there anyway. But there's lots of reasons for that. The system. It's not a 10. He was a scrum half. He's a very good scrum half, very attacking. But there's certain aspects in that game where you can tell Peel doesn't, or no one else in that coaching staff knows how to instill these players. You've got them all trying to find out things. So I think that's something more the deeper issue with the squad themselves.
It's, but I take the outside half point, and I agree with you. Like they've been much worse without him there. They'd be better when Costello's back. But I think again, this is also a sign of the times in Welsh rugby, in that Costello's dropped out. Scar's performances have fallen off a cliff because prior to him going, the Bristol lost by a point. They did okay out in Bordeaux, beat Glasgow 23-0, that sort of thing. The Dragons got to roll out Tinas to beer every week because we got nothing underneath. The reality is, I think, for the Ospreys, and Zach, correct me if I'm wrong here, is, if Dan Edwards ain't there, it's a struggle. It's not the same quality. And maybe down at Cardiff, you've got Sheedy, you've got Ewan Lloyd, so.
Injured.
But
I said so for us, it's basically Sheedy or it's Harry Boyle, and you're using
Ben Thomas.
basically a combination of Rory Jennings and Ben Thomas sort of switching between 10 and 12 when they're on the pitch.
But so at least 3 out of 4 or 3.5 of the teams, if you like, at the moment that are in dire straits when it comes to fly half position. Yet we've got Charlie Titcombe that was let go. You're on about squad players and stuff. You've got Jared Evans struggling to get in the the Quins team every week. You've got Sam Davis playing his socks off in Pro Day 2. Well, there's three that could come back immediately that would bolster everybody's options. And I'm probably forgetting a couple as well. So yes,
Don't talk to me about this Jared Edwards thing. I'm still pissed off about that because that was from the WRU deciding overnight to cut everyone's budget by 2 million.
Exactly, and that's why I genuinely think a lot of the things that are going on in terms of losses and personnel do come back to that. It's not an excuse, I don't think anymore. It's just a fact. That's the reality of it.
I think it's just unfortunate for us that our 110 that we've actually got is incredibly injury prone. And that coincides with why, we can only string half a season together. I think the big difference between this year and last year, really for me, and the reason why people are more angry with Peel this year than they have been previously, is that last year at least we were able to get bonus points. Like we are so unable to get 4 tries in a game. It's just impossible for us. I think this is like one of the very few games that we have. I think
It's the first all
maybe,
season, isn't it?
yeah,
Not
even
quite, I think.
I don't think we got 4 tries in our win over Glasgow. I think we only got 3.
Yeah.
So it's just really frustrating, especially as a team who want to play like expansive backs rugby, and we can't even score tries.
From URC for a fact. 17 tries scored in 9 games. So
Yeah,
that's averaging less than 2 a game.
just
That's,
rub it in, Harley.
yeah.
I'm already
Just a lack of
I'm already depressed. Don't make it worse.
I always feel like the Scarlets are just a bit of a confidence team. You saw it the weekend. When you get that front foot and just a little bit of momentum, you'll happily fly with it. But you've been lacking momentum all year, and it's
Yeah,
showing. And it's just
we started to build a little bit of momentum, and then like the autumn happened, and then we like Costello got a bit injured, and it all just fell off again.
Yeah, and it is tough. Going back to the game though, I did think that you come back admirably into it,
Yeah.
especially to take the lead because at 21-0 or 21-3 down or whatever it was there or thereabouts, I thought, they're in for an
Oh
absolute,
yeah. I
they're in for a pumping you. But Poe forgot how to defend a driving line and how to win any line out ball, and their discipline was absolutely
It was like
shocking.
they were the Scarlets.
It was I couldn't get over it. I thought all you need to do is like catch it, kick it off the field, squeeze the Scarlets a little bit, get the ball back in a good area, and you'll end up scoring. If I was their coach at half time, I'd have absolutely gone ballistic because you've gone in 23-21 when it should have been 35-0 or something along those lines. But yeah, admirable to come back and pick up a point. But that's the end of the. I know you've got a game next weekend against Northampton, but that's the end of the journey in the Champions Cup now, isn't it?
Yeah. I didn't think we'd make it very far.
Do you drop down at the
get into
challenge?
permutations and what people need.
Uh, we could maybe-ish.
Well, I said we'll get into all that when we
Yeah.
do the next round previews. But we'll move on to the final game of the weekend, where sorry Zach for making you wait so long to talk about. On the plus side, you finally got that bonus point that you were missing in the home game during the URC. The sad news was it was a losing bonus point.
we tried and we didn't really. It's just a very frustrating game, especially from a fan perspective. Like a lot of the WRRAP club was very just awesome. Won both our derbies, bonus point wins. Looked pretty dominant throughout both of them. Didn't feel like losing either of them. On Friday, we announced that Dan Edwards has re-signed. Great piece of news, great vibes around the club. And we go in, and for the first 10 minutes of that game, we are just trying to overplay. Everyone's trying to be the hero, score screamers for fun. And then it doesn't happen because Zebra are a good team. And then when we realize it doesn't happen, we lose all the momentum, go down, concede a dodgy maul try, and suddenly we're on our back foot and we're struggling to regain control of the first half. And it just felt like everything sort of went off rails a little bit. as soon as all of our flashy offloads weren't working, and we clearly don't like Griffin Colby, but it's just nothing was quite sticking, nothing was quite working. It felt like almost like we were just a bit tired, a bit leggy after the derbies, which is could have seen coming at the end of the day. It was definitely a tale of two halves because second half we came out and looked back to where we should be, but we just left ourselves too much of a deficit to really make note of it. I think Derry Lake had probably his worst game. I've seen him have him in over a year comfortably, but those 40 minutes he just looked pretty ineffective and tired physically, mentally. As Lewis Lloyd came on, made a really big impact at half time. It's just really quite difficult to see. And with that sort of lack of momentum, almost when your captain's not quite up to the standards that he holds himself to, and he'll be as annoyed at his performance as anyone else. It's difficult to get going, it felt like. I mean, Zebra were no mugs, and they showed that they took their chances well. They held a lot of possession and pressure, especially throughout that first half, just constantly sitting sort of in between our 22 and that halfway line. Didn't feel like we could really do anything. Like the first time we had a look in towards the end of the half, really, after the first 10 minutes, we gave away a pen for obstruction on a tap off a tap move and going the hill, going to half time, 13-0 down. It feels oddly. I think after the first half, you could tell we were going to lose. There's just this omen in the air that reminded me of our performance away there last season under Toby Booth, where we just didn't quite have enough to come back. It's quite annoying. God knows we tried. Morgan Morse had an absolute stormer, and seems to be breaking the line for fun. But it felt like a bit of a one-man team. Just some really off-kilter performances. Some players have been in really good form all year. I don't know if you guys agree, but it felt pretty off-kilter.
I'll be honest, I've only really seen highlights and had a look at stats or something because I wasn't paying for it.
Yeah, no, first,
Frank, to be frank, I made the mistake of paying for a European game once before, and that was about three. That was the first episode I ever did on WRRAP, where I was covering the Dragons going away to Glasgow and had 70 odd put on them. And I paid £7 for this. This is ridiculous. But
This is like the fifth time I've heard Harley complain about that game, by the way.
it still annoys me, and Lee still owes me a very strong beer for that one. I don't want the money. I want something to memory hold that experience. But one thing I just confused because as far as I'm aware, the Ospreys don't have too many injuries yet. You still persist with having two hookers on the bench. As far as I'm aware, like your second rows are still fun, but you had
I
you
mean,
had
we had a 6-2. I'm pretty. No, we had Graham Evans, who's 6'7", but we had normal out hookers. It was fine. Like there wasn't anything abnormal with our bench to my knowledge. I don't know. I don't know. The bench felt like they made a difference, might, but
Were you classed
just a
as a hooker
curiosity.
there?
yeah. Like, we had Evan Lloyd on the bench, and he's the only out and out hooker on that bench.
Well, was I misreading the team sheet? It does happen. I'm getting on.
Lewis Lloyd, Stephen
Yeah,
Thomas,
Lewis.
Ian Hire, F and Daniel, Gwilym Evans.
Evan Daniels on the bench.
Yeah, I said it was listed on the EPCR as an Evan Daniel, who's a okay.
No, it was Sam
Lewis Lloyd.
Jones.
This is where I was confused then, because I said I saw it on the team sheet, so that makes it. The other thing is I found for two of the tries, Dan Edwards was not where the tension would be normally, which I just found really weird. I suppose this is the joy of having dual tape makers.
Dan's like been in really weird form over the last month or so. In that we're playing really well, but he's not really doing much. Like,
is he having? Sorry, I was going to say, is he having like fly half growing pains?
Maybe, but it's really hard to say. Just like when he's running the attack around the 22, he's doing it well and creating space and moving us around a lot. But he's not really providing any killer instinct. in that sense. He's not really doing much of the flashy things that us really leading us through. I think a lot of that's coming down to sort of Kieran Hardy and our centres.
Just before I get the comments and thing, that what I'm pointing to is so if you watch through the highlights, the Kieran Williams try, Dan Edwards is in the ruck previously before, having coming off the wing, and then for his own try, he's where I'd expect, and the long pass from Ruben Williams, he's where I'd expect the 15 or a winger to be. It's just an oddity. I know. I don't know if there's anything to do with the attacking structure or
To be fair, I
if
think for his try, he just wraps around super late when he realises there's a 20-metre gap in the left wing and just says, I'm quick enough, I'll get there. Which, fair.
It's just one of those weird. It's just one of those weird things. I just went, that looks odd to me. But fair fucks to him because I know a lot of tens who won't stick their head in rucks. So fair play for him to try it.
It felt like our shape was a bit all over the place. We really struggled at the breakdown constantly, especially securing our ball. We gave away a stupid amount of turnovers to Zebra, just who getting in, getting hands on, and just pilfering it constantly. Every time we'd have a half decent sort of break the line just a little bit, even just break a tackle, and suddenly over football. It's just.
I feel like you somewhat suffered from because Benetton had such a big win the day before. Zebra were really up for it. Like they're very competitive with each other when they're not playing. In the same way that both teams are quite emotional. So if there's a player getting 100th cap or something, which is what had happened in the Benetton game, they really play up to it. And I think you kind of felt that they were really up for it.
To be fair, when we went into it, it felt like we were taking the game a bit for granted. It felt like with the mindset we're going to win this by 20 points, and we just sort of took Zebra a bit for granted. The amount of times we were overrunning, expecting an offload that never came, and got turned over immediately. It's just, especially in that first half, was really quite disappointing.
Mm.
Disappointing is the only way I can sum it up.
Does anyone else have anything to say about this or games on the weekend?
I will quickly mention the Twitter stuff regarding Dan Edwards' announcement video. A very funny video. I will not be convinced otherwise. Good chat. Everything on Twitter was a fucking mess.
It just got really weird. And obviously, as a Scarlets fan, we can have loads of people being like, she hasn't got a sense of humour because she's a Scarlets fan, and he threw a Scarlet. I just thought it was weird. And the reaction to it was weird. And it all got blown out of proportion. I do think that sometimes, I did see somebody point out that maybe the Ospreys put Dan at a disservice because if the Ospreys do go under, he's thrown this Scarlet's hat across the it doesn't look great just from that point of view. And I do agree with that. I just thought it was just weird. Like you weren't playing us that week. You weren't we're not playing you for a while. It was just weird. I get there's a rivalry, but why? And it just felt like we haven't done anything. I just don't really get it. You're not. That was the official account, not a fan account, and it just felt a bit unprofessional.
I don't know. I'm always up for accounts having a bit of fun. I can see how it's weird.
Yeah, the problem is that it just got really nasty and
afterwards,
yeah, it, and I think that's where when you have the official account, they have to take a bit of accountability for when things are, there is a line, and that culture of beefing with each other doesn't really exist in rugby in that way of dissing each other on social media. It exists in other sports, but it doesn't really exist in rugby, so it just felt weird.
Haven't they done it in the Prem though, where
Yeah, and that got slated as well.
the Bulls were going at the Sharks and someone was going at Saracens on social?
Yeah, Saracens have really been doing it.
They,
But
they
even
are they are fully leaning into being a wrestling heel though. As a team, they've decided no one likes us. We're going to lean into it.
but also with sorry, Harley, I was going to say, with those teams, when they've done that, they haven't placed it on individual players. They've done it as a team. So, like, it's been Saracens putting, like, a Harlequin's file in the recycling bin on their computer or whatever. Like, it hasn't been an actual player doing something. And I think that's why it felt even more weird. I
It's
don't know.
it is I don't know. The reaction to it was out of proportion for what it would have been, and it's. I think I mean you can tell the media team meant it as a harmless joke, but at the same time, it's not something that clearly got too thought through.
Yeah, and I think, there's also a media team that once announced that they were making an announcement and then said, sorry, we're not making an announcement because we forgot that Lance is on holiday. So is it, professionalism there, I think is could be worked on.
Hang on,
And I'm not
Lance.
saying that as a Scars fan, I'm saying that as just a person.
Did you say Lance was on holiday?
Yeah.
Shocker.
This
Now,
was a couple of
Nick,
weeks.
now
Like,
Nick's on holiday, and have you ever seen Lance and Nick in the same room?
Annoyingly, yes.
Oh, see, that's my theory
How
at the
much
moment
had
for
you
them.
had to drink to that point, though, Zach?
Yeah.
Not enough.
No.
this was like a couple of months ago, though. Yeah.
I mean, but I'll be honest, I just ignore all Ospreys signing videos ever since the blood transfusion, and I just refuse to acknowledge they exist anymore because that one still hurts. I think that's the game weekend. The only other bit of rugby I saw is that the under 18 rag is back and away, and Cardiff beats. Actually, it was it was the warm up match for the Bristol game, I believe. They beat the Cardiff under 18s beats Ospreys under 18 3 odds. Um,
Oh, we've lost Harley.
you lost this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're back.
Oh, we're back.
Oh, that's the internet cracking in, not the mic this time. Anyway, so that's that. That's all the news. That the only thing I've been asked by producer Lee to do is, uh, if you're watching on YouTube, there should be a little banner advertising a shop to make us money, so I can buy decent internet and a new microphone. Uh, the audio listeners will post links with the thing there, and you can buy hats, t-shirts from all various pods with random various phrases. Like the Dragon's Lair one is, it's the hope that kills you. Scarlet's is new coach for Christmas. The Ospreys is, it's Eyrie, not Eerie, because I can pronounce it either way because it's spelt the same way. Uh, and Cardiff is just and another bonus point win. And with that, and yet another
Spoiling it
reaction,
now.
thanks from Hattie for our WhatsApp stickers. We'll move on to the previews we'll move on to the previews. So first up, if I quickly find the fixtures before someone drills into the back.
Well, it's Rodney Parade
First
first
up,
up,
I've
isn't it?
got Dragons hosting Newcastle Friday night at 8 o'clock. This one's going to be on S4C and EPCR TV if you want to pay for it when it's on free to air. Dan, do you want to lead us off this? So quick brief on what Dragons need if they want to progress on. If do they want to need, and then a preview of the game, please.
Well, it's simple for the men of Gwent this Friday night, and I suppose this is maybe something we haven't had for a while, and it makes it exciting. It's a straight shootout, not quite a straight shootout because Newcastle are through, but it's a shootout for the Dragons. Win, especially with a bonus point, I think we're pretty much through. There's a number of permutations with the teams below. Lose, and thanks for coming. So, take it as a must-win game for the Dragons. So if you are at the loose end on the Friday evening and you are in Gwent, get yourself down to Rodney Parade and support the boys. In terms of personnel, the way they're going to play the game, the reality is I think the Dragons all season very much have been night and day away from home as they have been at home. Nobody's come and rolled the Dragons over at Rodney Parade. Even the mighty Leinster, despite the bonus point win, nearly come unstuck if it wasn't for a dodgy refereeing decision towards the end with our high shot. So the Dragons, I'm expecting a much changed Dragons 23. I'd expect to see the likes of Angus O'Brien back, bringing his leadership from the backfield. Shea Hope's going to come back in. Ben Carter, Wainwright, Keddy, Innisy, and Iron Owen. Just throwing those names in makes a difference straight away, doesn't it? We At the time of recording this, I'm unaware of the injury sort of list. Whether I know Paella was close to coming back, whether he's going to be fit for this one or not, I don't know. If he is, I would put him on the bench. At the very least, I'd give him an out in. Still unsure on the likes of. I know Dylan Lewis is out, but Elliot D, etc. I think they're still a little way off yet. So yeah, I'm expecting a front row maybe of Wyn Jones or Martinez, backed up by one or the other, and Rob Hunt to come back in and start again. In fairness to Rob Hunt, he's been fantastic signing for the Dragons, hasn't he, this season? Um, the poor bloke needs a rest. So yeah, I'm expecting a much changed team, different performance, and yeah, I'm expecting the Dragons win.
So Zach, moving on to you. Ospreys have already qualified, so it's a sort of another straight shootout between you and Montpellier. So the winner of this basically tops the pool's got a good shot at home games pretty much all the way through. How do you see this one?
French team coming to us. Montpellier probably looking to go 4 from 4. I think they're going to go pretty fully loaded. I'm not massively confident just because they're going to be big. It's Adam Beard is coming home. His 6 month spell away. He's finally coming to an end, even if only just to see him in the Riverside afterwards. But it's going to be a tough one. Montpellier have been looked pretty good so far in the competition. I mean, they capitalised on Connaught doing a Connaught, but who doesn't do that nowadays? I'll be interested to see how seriously we take it, given we're already qualified out, at least for pools. If we want to get at home at least round of 16, we're going to need to win. But if you want, I think we might be able to get a home quarterfinal, maybe for a bonus point, and certain other results go our way. I'm not 100% sure. It's a weird one. I think it's seeing who's fit, what we want to go with, because we've got choices to make at this point. Who we want in our centres, who we want in the locks, who we want with back rows. Seeing who's around and what we want to play. It almost feels like we've got a choice between a very Toby Poof midfield and a very Mark Jones midfield.
I have an important question. How loudly are you going to boo Stuart Hogg?
I would do unspeakable things and say unspeakable things that should not be repeated.
Mm.
It's the same with everyone on Montpellier has basically committed a crime, to be fair. So
Yeah, that's true.
it's
But
really
what, Adam Beard, what you been doing?
he went to Montpellier. That's his crime.
Well, his carry stats are also a crime, so that's
Ooh. Nick to defend him as well.
yeah, there you go.
It takes a lot of defending.
No. Adam Beard is one of my top 3 favourite players, alongside everyone who is alongside Wayno and Josh Adams. Weirdly, they all came to a Wales team at the same time as getting enough rugby. Ignore that. But it's just, I love him. You can never say a bad word about him. You'll never change my mind. But maybe he shouldn't start for Wales. But I love him. Find me another lock who throws a missed pass for Morgan Morris scoring against Montpellier in the Champions Cup last time we played them.
Find me another lock who makes 1 carry per game.
But I saw David Jenkins putting in a lovely miss pass.
Yeah, good point. Fair play.
On the weekend.
This is it. So this game is also on S4C and EPHCR TV and all those sorts of things. So, that's two out of the 4 so far doing that on free to air, which is good. A game that isn't on free to air is Chiefs versus Cardiff. That'll be on Premier Sports. That's a game I'm going to. I'm looking forward to. Those of you who were a fan of the reel on the YouTube short, this Mama Dr. Harley-Worthy is coming to the game as well, so she'll probably do an instant reaction as well. Looking forward to this one. So this pool's already sewn up, so the 4 teams that are going through are the 4 teams playing each other as well, so that wraps it up in a nice little bow. So Stade visiting Ulster, so that's going to go a long way to deciding top spot, which means second places potentially up for grabs between Cardiff and Exeter. So I could imagine this one being a bit tasty. We've had some bad experiences out of there back in history. Again, how serious are Cardiff going to take it? I'd like to see this. It's probably going to be one last run out for a lot of our Wales internationals, as I imagine we're going to lose them for a few weeks. Well, actually, for quite a while, because I think they're going to be away the week we go away to Ulster, and then we've got the South Africa draw straight up in 6 Nations. Uh,
We've lost you again, Harley.
Um,
We don't want to hear about Cardiff, apparently.
No one
the
cares.
internet is trying to silence my truth. Thankfully, it's from me recording, so it's all going through. It's you guys who there, hopefully. Either way, yeah. So I think Cardiff got a good chance to be next. If we win this and Stad can actually give a shit and beat Ulster, then there's a good chance of us having a couple of home ties. Whether that's the important thing or we should focus on the league, I'm not sure. But I'm enjoying that. And then, unless anyone's got anything else they want to say about that, we move on to the final game. Potentially their final game of Europe this year. Although you still technically can both go into both the challenge and stay in the Champions Cup. So we've got Northampton Saints hosting the Scarlets. That is going to be on Premier Sports.
Mm-hmm. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to this game. It is
Who
only up.
going?
It is almost up the road from me, so I could go. But do I want to watch the Scarlets lose? Um, it's fair to say I don't think we're going to beat the Saints.
And Northampton through.
Yeah.
May
However,
help you out.
they are away. So you've got Bordeaux and Bristol going for the top spot, and then Northampton could go up and get a home
Oh,
game
right.
potentially, and then it's Poe and the Bulls. So it's a bit of a weird one. I don't think we're really in with a shot, but if we can keep the game not that, uh, if we don't get a blowout, then points difference means we're all right. We're 31 points on points difference ahead of the Bulls. So as long as we don't get blown out, then we drop down. Realistically, do I think Europe is important to us? No. Um, I personally don't think Blair was ready to come back this weekend. I think it was too early for him. But then we had other players who had a great performance. Do I want Sammy to come back or do I want him to wait and just play in the league instead? There's a lot of if, buts, and maybes. And I'm not really sure what I want from them. Um, I, I hope it's close and not a blowout, just for morale.
And
I
Bordeaux
think
go to
given how
Bristol, though, don't they? Sorry, Harley. I think Bordeaux go to Bristol,
Mm-hmm.
but Bordeaux are. I'm just looking at the table now. Actually, it's in front of me. But if Bristol win, Bristol finish top. But I think they're both guaranteed. No, it's not quite as easy as that, is it? Because
No.
if Bordeaux, because I was thinking, if Bordeaux go there, and don't bother. But if they lose the game, Bordeaux, and don't pick up anything, and Northampton batter you guys, then Bordeaux drop down to third, for
There's still a
example.
lot to play for.
There's still a lot to play for. So I would say Northampton are going to go full. They're going to go full Henry Pollock.
Yeah. Pollock and Plumtree. That's going to be a battle, isn't it?
I would love to see the odds on one of those on which one of those gets their first yellow card. But I
But yeah,
think I
I'm
think
I'm very apathetic towards it all, I have to be honest.
I think most likely situation is given how seem to realise they've actually got a shot at staying in Europe quite comfortably. The Bulls cannot be asked
No.
just in general. especially after that game, losing that game against Bristol, only picking up 1 point. I think the likeliest scenario is Bulls lose away to Pau. The Scarlets basically, if you match the match points the Bulls get, and even then, even if you don't, you probably, I think you've got to at least match the match points.
I think
The
we need
fifth, and you're going
to.
to be playing one of the 5th to 8th sides in the Challenge Cup, which, even though it's an away game, is probably going to be a winnable. It's at least a win.
I think odds on if the Ospreys win and the Scarlets get out, they're coming to the brewery.
I think if Ospreys win, they'll play a lower ranked Challenge Cup side because they'll put them top there.
Oh,
I think if we win, it's weird. There's some likely permutation.
Europe is very
Um,
complicated,
it is
and
complicated, yeah.
I honestly think that the complication turns people off.
I miss the old Europe format. I was thinking back today and just realised I really miss the old Heineken Cup, 20 teams, 5 pools of 4.
It's just complicated.
we can't go back to that now. We've lost a weekend. We've lost a match weekend.
Yeah, no.
So I'm sure we can.
And I think this is, I forgot to mention it earlier on, so apologies for harping back to the Dragons, but even if the Dragons win, they're staring down the barrel of an away fixture. So even if we pick up 5 points, and the Dragons' home form is, well, shit. Let's not beat around the bush. Their away form, sorry, shit. So, yeah, if we even if we do win, which I got no doubt they want to, it'll be around the 16, but we could end up travelling to a Champions Cup dropout. Let's hope it's Parker Scarlets.
You
No,
don't
we're
travel
away.
to a Champions Cup draft, right? So the way it's going to seedings will work, so when they rank all the teams 1 to 12, 1 through 8 all have home fixtures, and then 1 to 4 play 9 to 12, and then 5 to 8 will play the 4 Champions Cup dropouts. Again,
That could still be
it's
the
far
Dragons,
too
couldn't it?
format. It's too complicated. There's too many teams in the top level. You should not have an 80% chance of getting into the top level of Europe.
And if Dr. Harley Worthy can't figure it out, there's no hope for the rest of us.
I'm going to
Can
need an
figure it
aspirin
out
now.
with a dedicated half an afternoon, but it's far too complicated than it needs. It's lost a lot of the magic. I think they've put far too much effort on a knockout stage, and if you want it to be about knockout games, just make it a cup draw and have
Yeah.
knockouts. Let the teams that really just want to focus on these throw their first game and get on with it. The only reason we're doing it is to get extra home games.
Right, Harley. Let's go through
I
this.
think
Harley, let's go through this slowly now, right? Because the Dragons currently in 5th. Let's
Yep.
assume the Dragons win with a bonus point. We do a Connaught. Takes us on to 9 points, and let's just say we creep into 4th. Right? Where does it look like we're going?
without actually going and tabulating all the different things, you're looking like you're going to go away to one of the top 4 Challenge Cup sides. So there's a good chance it could end up being someone like the Ospreys, or you could be going to
Start.
you could end
or
up staying.
Montpellier.
You could end up going back to Benetton. That's how stupid the format is. A bit like with
It's bollocks. There we are. I've
they're
said
like
it.
Cardiff playing Connacht twice, like
And
4
then
times.
there you go. So what the Dragons should do now is win, and then go on strike for the next round. Stuff it. We'll just concentrate on becoming a top 8 team in the URC.
I mean, there is a chance. It is feasibly put. There's some permutations there, just about if all maths goes well. It is feasible that the Dragons could end up playing Cardiff, and that was the last time you beat us was in a Challenge Cup knockout game. So it might be the thing you need to break the duck to break it,
I
but it
can't see
is
that.
infinitesimal amount of probability.
Knowing the Dragons, like it'll end up being like a Stade Francais or a Montpellier or something like that, and we'll make it a Dragons SRC 15 again and get pumped by 70, and we'll move on. Thanks very much for coming. All the best.
But at least you made the knockouts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there is actually a good chance of all 4 Welsh sides making knockouts. It's just the Challenge Cup knockouts.
All right. At least we made
Okay.
Champions Cup. Still to this day, don't know how.
because Gareth Davis happened against the Cardiff again, and it will happen until someone puts him down. So I'm in no way advocating killing Gareth Davis.
Please don't. We need him.
I was very close after 2021.
We need
But
him.
we will have it. Anyway, on that note, where I feel like we've marginally brought up Dan's message of not so much hope.
And we're all
I
starting
think
to lose it a bit. And we're all starting to lose it a bit.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm starting to go slightly.
I'm not.
I think
I'm all in it.
we'll call it there. Once again, thank you, Zach, for stepping in for Nick. Thank you, Dan and Hattie, for joining me as always. And
Pleasure.
thank everyone listening to our ramblings. Nostar.
No
Not
star.
star.